Hi everyone, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie and today I'm here to share with you my reading goals and plans for 2022. First up, I want to acknowledge that I have a bandage on my arm. I'm totally okay, just had to have a tiny procedure done today, but all is good, but I'm not allowed to take the bandage off for 24 hours. With that said, we're going to jump straight into the goals. Actually, I kind of had a hard time coming up with goals for next year. I think because a lot of these are the same as they were this year, and I wanted something different, but I still don't really know what that is. So maybe I'll have another goal video in the new year in which I come up with something. But for now, these are the ones I have. So let's jump straight into it with the Goodreads goal. I haven't really been using Goodreads this year. I stopped using it in about March and I just didn't update books. I think I'm kind of over it. I think that it just doesn't really work for me these days, and I have my own spreadsheet in which I track all the books that I read and DNF, and I can track that better, I feel, because I can use different tags to track things like how many authors of color am I reading, how many books with disability representation, books from, new releases versus backlist books and things like that. So I think I'm just happy doing that. But my Goodreads number for 2022 is going to be 250. So if you've been on a couple of Mel and I's lives in the past few months, in which my friend Eli has also been present, you might know about our little competition that we are running next year, in which he is trying to basically read, I don't know even what it is anymore. It started off as like a quarter of what I read. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. My whole point is that I am an incredibly competitive person when it comes to very specific things. I'm not very competitive in my daily life. It's not really me as a person, but when it comes to reading, and I don't know, and like certain friends, I'm like, I absolutely have to crush you, and that's kind of what's happening next year. So I'm gonna try and read 250 for the sole purpose of making his life hell. And yes, I mean, I also want him to succeed, but I also want to make it as difficult for him as possible, and thus 250. But I also have bumped it up to that number because just like last year, I have a goal of getting my TBR to under 200 books. This year I made it like a if it happens once kind of thing, which it did in January and then again in February, and then it absolutely did not go to plan for the rest of the year. And I'm now sitting on about 290. Talked about this in quite a few videos recently and some ones from like a few months back, but I think everyone has a limit when it comes to their TBR. For me, that limit is 300. That's the number in which I don't really have any space left anywhere and I start to feel a bit overwhelmed and stressed. So I definitely want to get away from 300, but also it would be really nice to get down to like the 200 mark. And I'm also planning to move this year, probably about midway through the year, and it would just be nice to not have to lug like 300 unread books on top of everything that I have read. I would be looking at maybe like 600 books all up, So it would be nice if I could unhaul some, or, you know, whether that be through DNFing or through reading and deciding I don't like it, or however I decide to go about that, so that things feel a little bit more manageable and that the books that I own do fit on the many bookshelves that I already own. So those are kind of those two goals. Within that, I have a few like mini goals to kind of help me reach that. The first one, of course, is my haul revisits. I did a video talking about kind of my plans for that, in which I will be implementing book buying bans and things like that. I didn't mention in that video, but my kind of goal for that is to have, by the end of the year, have about 100 books left on that list. Obviously I'd love to have less, but that's kind of my goal point, is to only have 100. I bought a lot of books this year. I really did. And I don't feel too bad about it because it's my money. I choose to do with it what I wish. I don't really buy a lot of other things other than books and food and, like, you know, medical things and things to keep my cats alive. But otherwise I don't really buy that much, and I would like to get that number down, and also try and curb myself from buying more things in 2022, and maybe you know, spending some time and money doing other things like trips to galleries and things like that, and rather than putting all of my budget into books. That was a weird tangent, but anyway, so yes, down to 100 for that. I'm also, last year I was going to try and read all of my pre-2019 books, and I got that number down to 4. Super proud of that. But in 2022, I also want to add my 2019 books to that list. It doesn't make it too bad. It's only 17 books, which I think is doable. You know, that's 1 and a bit per month. And, you know, there are some that I'm sure I'm not going to gel with that I might decide to unhaul. But I would really like to get rid of all of my pre-2020 books. And obviously, with that, I will also be trying to work on the books that I did buy in 2020. Just all of the things, really. Another one from this year was my series. So I was trying to finish and catch up on 15 series. I'll talk about how I did with these at the start of next year. But I have decided to, going into 2022, that I'm going to bump that number up to 20 series, because I now have a lot of books that I just have the last book in the series to read. There's also quite a few series that are ending in 2022 that I have been reading, and yeah, just things I can catch up on and things like that. I also have another project which I haven't fully committed myself to yet, but I will be making a separate video about it anyway, that also has to do with that. And I'm also counting with catch up on, I'm going to be counting some of the big series that I'm reading, so like my Terry Pratchett's, J.D. Robb, and authors like that, in which I'm not going to finish the series. It's just not going to happen for a really long time. So instead, I'm going to be sort of making myself a marker to be like, okay, well, I've read the first 3 books, so I'm going to, if I read to book 12, I don't know, by the end of the year, I'm gonna count that as caught up on for me. So that one I'm still kind of planning out, and will kind of depend on whether I plan to do that project that I haven't decided yet. We'll see. So those are kind of my main ones. I will be joining in with readathons and challenges throughout the year, I'm sure. One that I'm definitely going to be joining in on is Invisible Cities. I really wanted to join in on this last year, but I just wasn't prepared enough for it. Basically, I'll link all the information below, but it's basically trying to read books from different places around the world. Every month there are 2 places, I think, that are chosen, and you can read from those. So I'm going to try and participate every single month and read a book from each place. More about that later. And I'm also going to be joining in on Let Us Read Middle Grade, which was created and is hosted by my friend Enrique from A Dance with Books. I did this last year, absolutely loved it. She's one of the nicest people I know, and I absolutely adore her. So 100% going to be supporting her with that, and I just had so much fun with it. It's just nice to have something to track, and like remind myself to read middle grade, which I love reading, but sometimes you just forget to pick things up, right? So that's very helpful, and I will share other things throughout the year and whatnot. But for today, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys on Monday. Bye.